Okay, hi, my name's Mary and I'm with Julie Wood, also known as Granny, and we're here to talk about the Food Bank Garden. Can you start off by telling me a little bit about the garden?
Well, the memorial section of the garden was put into effect years ago and then went to rack and ruin. So 8 years ago, when I became homeless and hung out there, some homeless friends of mine and I decided to clean it up and renovate that part. So we got the memorial garden, which is all flowers and benches and picnic tables and things for people to come and get through their grief. We have stones on a mound in the middle with the names of people that we knew who died and didn't have a, and their relatives and friends didn't have a place to go to get through their grief. And then I kept wanting to do a real garden, but I couldn't get permission to dig in the back area. There was a group of people called the Garden Ladies, and supposedly they were doing it, but they just had a few permanent plants, and they would come and cut the grapes and take them away. I mean, the stuff didn't stay there. So when this wonderful woman, Dale Reed, came on board, and pardon me if I get a little teary, she died recently, so she got me permission to plow it up and plant a garden. So they provided the soil, you know, the ground, the area, and the water, and I and my friends and donated everything else. In last year, the first year, I got donations of soil and plants, and I bought a lot of them through people handing me a $5 and saying, here, buy some plants, or bringing me some from their house. Or when I recycled, I used my recycle money to go to the farmer's market and buy plants. And I picked their brains at the same time about how to grow, because I'm not really a gardener. I believe in the old man upstairs had more to do with it than I did, so I'm just the hands in the earth. So the first year, I provided the food bank with over 500 pounds of organic produce, because I used no insecticides, no pesticides, and grew it in aged organic compost mixed soil and put only water on it. The garden does not have a fence, and I hope never has to have one, because that's where people go to get food. And as long as they don't tear it up or, you know, take everything, I don't mind them walking through and picking and eating something. The first year I had 75 tomato plants and only like 8 wires to put them up with, you know, to hold them up. So it was kind of hit and miss the first year. I had a little bit of help, not a lot physically, just occasionally when somebody was there that wanted to dig in would come and help me. I spent about about 800 to 1,000 hours the first year. Then the second year came up, and I was a little more prepared. I had some boxes built, and I got it at a good price. And more people had knew about it, so they got more interested.
Yeah.
But I didn't get more help.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about what you hope for in the future for this garden?
Well, I hope that when the garden begins again, hopefully in the spring, maybe sooner, I've already arranged to have some more raised beds built. I only have to come up with the lumber and some wire. I have a man who's going to build them and provide all the hardware.
Great.
And I have accepted donations to the food bank specifically for the garden. Currently, as far as I know, there's $370, which I can stretch pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I can stretch pretty good.
Yeah, and can you tell me a little bit why you think it's important for this place in particular to be getting fresh produce?
Well, the food bank subsists on donations from stores and private donations, and fresh produce is something that doesn't get donated very much. There are a few farmers and people that grow stuff that bring their excess down there, but I thought a little quicker might be just using that land out there that was right there by the door, you know, obviously by the door, that it wouldn't cost them anything except the soil, you know, the use of it and the water to provide food fresh, very, you know, the ultimate fresh, not secondhand, third-hand picked over produce.
And how much of the produce actually goes directly to the food bank?
The amount I told you, 500 pounds, over 500 pounds both years, because I grew it for 2 years. Both years is only the food that I went in, weighed, and they gave out across to the food, you know, to the food bank clients. I didn't count any that I took home, which I did a few, or that anybody else picked and took. I only counted what went in. And what, so that's over 1,000 pounds in 2 years.
And how has the Gardens Project helped out this particular garden?
They've brought me some plants, lots of them. The last that I remember them bringing was from my favorite people, from Love and Blooms over by Philo. And I've made a deal with him that I can get it at what he calls, you know, the wholesale price, and I can pick it up, and he'll give me the bill, and then I'll turn it in, and out of the money that I have available, they'll send him a check, and he trusts me enough to do that. So I'm hoping more people will get interested and come down and actually work on and in the garden. We're probably going to miss United Way this year because of the construction on the food bank and community center. I have had help both years from people during the United Way Day of Caring in September, but it's not going to happen this year.
And so, just to go back to the garden a little bit, what kind of produce are you guys growing in there?
Whatever plants I can get a hold of. I've tomatoes of all kinds, from the little tiny white rabbit and heirloom tomatoes, the purple Cherokee, the taxis, the I can't remember all the names of them. Like I said, I had 75 tomato plants. Then there was squash, 3 kinds of squash. There was a winter squash, yellow crookneck, zucchini. There's already in there established rosemary, lavender, and grapes. And so that, and I planted a peach tree 8 years ago, and it started producing about 3 years ago. There's an apple tree that this year's the first year it's producing.
Nice.
And the Girl Scouts planted some, but because I don't live close enough to watch it during the frost, we lost the citrus that they planted.
Okay, so our last question to every gardener is, what is your favorite vegetable and why?
Tomatoes.
Tomatoes?
Because I am one. No, tomatoes because my father got me like eating tomatoes at a very, very early age, and even though he grew a big garden and I spent a lot of time in it, I still don't consider myself 1/10 as knowledgeable about, you know, plants and gardens. But tomatoes, you can use them in hundreds of ways, hundreds and hundreds of ways, and everybody knows what to do with a tomato. So, I mean, if you throw squash at them, they might not know what to do with it, or might say, oh, I don't like it, but there's very few people who won't use tomatoes.
Tomato. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview with us.
You're welcome.
And thank you for being such a great gardener at the Food Bank Garden.
You're welcome.